So we have a winter weather warning here in Dallas, and that makes people go crazy. There's a couple different levels of crazy. There's the go to the store and buy all the toilet paper and the water kind of crazy, which I expect will happen tomorrow night right before the stores close. There's also this other type of crazy that means that you're in denial about the fact that there is actually going to be winter weather. This type is actually more prevalent right now because a couple of weeks ago we had a forecast for possible ice storms. It depended on how low the temperature dropped, and no one was really sure how low it was going to get, and it didn't drop low enough for there to be ice, and so everyone thinks that because the weathermen were wrong this last time, even though they weren't, that they're going to be wrong this time as well, when there's a 95% chance of ice. So we'll see how that works out for people. But this type of weather does always remind me of one of my favorite stories about my life, and that is the winter of Fort Frostbite. In early 2011, I lived in a house with 4 other girls. It was an older house, well, not older. It was about 45 years old, and it was drafty and cold and not well kept up, and had all ceramic tile flooring, which is a landlord's dream, but a tenant's nightmare because it breaks everything and is freezing cold pretty much all the time. It also had these large, the sliding glass doors that went out into the backyard, which just like let heat out constantly, and all the windows were drafty, all of them. If I would just like sleep next to the window for one night, I would wake up with a sore throat. So during this particular time period, we were all really busy. None of my roommates are from Texas. They've lived here for a while, but they weren't from Texas, so I don't know, they probably know our weather patterns, but not super well. And I had heard there was supposed to be a major ice storm starting on a Monday. And I just didn't tell anyone, and I don't know why, it just slipped my mind. I just didn't mention it to anyone. At the time, it was quite pleasant out, but our heat was out. It hadn't been a pressing issue because the weather had been quite warm. However, our landlord was trying to get it fixed for us before this ice storm that no one knew about was supposed to hit. So she had people come out on a Sunday. While we were all getting ready for church, we ended up leaving and having the guys leave as well because we didn't know them, we didn't want to leave them there with our stuff, and so our heat didn't get fixed. Yeah. So the ice storm happens. It happens. It's major. It is like really, really dangerous to drive for probably about 4 or 5 days. One of the really bad things about Texas is that like it'll get like just warm enough for the ice on the streets to melt a little bit, and then it'll refreeze into like a nice slick sheet pretty much just over and over and over again. It may do that somewhere else too. I don't really know. I've lived here most of my life, so I'm not really sure. So we didn't have heat in an old drafty house. But we're innovators, we're survivors. We figured out a system. The first night, we couldn't spend the night in the house. There was no electricity, it was too cold, it wasn't doable at all. Spent the night at my pastor's house with his family. Then decided we wanted to go back to the house since the electricity was back on, and just made a plan. And what we did is we grabbed all the bedding from the house, including a mattress, shoved it all into our living room. And we had a fireplace, so the fireplace was in the living room. We covered every window and door and just kind of cocooned the living room so that heat wouldn't escape quite as easily. We put egg carton mattress covers over the sliding glass doors. We hung up like sheets in front of the windows. We covered even the doorway into the living room from the hall. And we had a little half wall that we stacked pillows up against. And we lived like that for 4 or 5 days. We called it Fort Frostbite. We actually had a little sign and everything. And it was actually okay. It was cold. We were all wearing probably 3 layers of clothing. Showers were terrible because we did still have hot water, but the hallway from the living room to the bathroom was just torturously cold, but we did survive. And quite frankly, I'm pretty proud of that whole story, even though it was partially my fault that we had to survive that way. I don't even know if I've ever told my roommates that that was partially my fault. Not sure. Fessing up now. I thought it was actually kind of fun. It was kind of cool. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, but it was kind of cool that we were able to like figure out a way to make the best of the situation. Happy Vlogmas day. It's day 2 for me, but it's day 4 for everyone else, and I will see you tomorrow. All right, bye.